Even if he didn't kill him, he knows who killed him, and I really truly believe that he was there when they were killed.
The murders happened between 8:30 and 10:06 p.m. and 10:06 is when he calls the police.
It's the cover-up and the lies that you do after.
She confronted Alex on the day of the murders.
It just proves the conspiracy and that you knew you were doing something wrong.
Yeah. I don't know that Alex was a normal father in that state of mind with all the stuff that was going on.
Thanks for watching the Carolina Justice Report today. I'm Rainey Romero with the lovely law firm. We are here for another Murdaugh update. Stay tuned. Welcome back. I am joined with our usual lovely ladies, Amy Lawrence and Sarah Austin, our attorneys. But today there's a new face, attorney Justin Lovely.
I'll go with that.
It was like Lovely and Justin together, Justly.
That's one of my cousins probably.
But I'm glad you're joining us today because it's usually the girls chatting about this.
Yeah.
But you're going to get to weigh in today too on some of the new details.
Yeah, they've been filling me in on all this crazy shit, so I had to come in and bring my perspective.
Welcome to the rabbit hole.
Yeah,
Welcome to the rabbit hole. So ladies, you know, we talked about, I mean, the last episode with the Murdaugh, Amy had her whole notebook of just update after update after update. It's only been a few weeks since that update, but what's new? What's going on?
You want to talk about alibis first? We're going to talk about Russell Laffitte. What are we going to talk about?
We got a trial going on.
We got a trial going on.
We do. We have the first trial of Russell Laffitte, which is a federal trial. He was the head of Palmetto State Bank, and he was acting as the conservator for Alex Murdugh's victims, and he was loaning out money and spending, getting private planes, using the money for all kinds of stuff and not giving it to the client.
Right.
And so
this is the only federal trial, right?
This
There's
is
no
the
other
only
federal
federal trial at
charges
this
yet.
point. No,
They're all just like
right.
lying in wait, trying to figure out what's going to happen.
Which this is what I do love about federal cases. I mean, I wouldn't like it if I had to defend them, I guess, but like when it comes to criminal, they have them relatively very quickly. If they bother to bring charges, they've got their ducks in a row and they're ready to rock and roll. Let's do this. And the federal court system, criminally, civilly too, but really criminally even more so, is on a tight timeline. They keep these cases moving. And if there's going to be a trial, because there's federal criminal cases or trials are very rare, that they get them going very quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you saying that the trial has started or a date's been set?
Yep. It started Monday.
Started.
And he's been charged with, I think, 3 counts of misappropriating funds, bank fraud,
Wire fraud.
and conspiracy. Mm-hmm. And so he's up there for a lot of.
And do they try all of that at once in one case, in one trial?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. What's crazy is he has, we've not heard anything from Russell Laffitte since he was charged. And right before the weekend, before the trial started on Monday, he gave this interview to a family member who's supposedly a reporter. And he played I was duped by Alex Murdugh too. But none of the evidence lines up with that narrative.
Yeah.
Well, his lawyers are teasing that they're going to drop, during his defense, they're going to drop some recordings of something.
Well, from what we understand, what they're saying, those recordings are that the bank knew what they were doing as a part of the scheme, which I'm not sure that really helps you. It just proves the conspiracy and that you knew you were doing something wrong.
Yeah, I think it just implicates other people.
Right, you just dragging everybody with you.
Yeah. And I think from this...
Which I say drag them all.
Yeah.
The most interesting thing about this trial is, and it shouldn't be, that we're learning a lot about Alex and the murders in this trial.
Yeah. And timelines.
And timelines and things like that. Because I guess the CFO, she's still the CFO of this law firm, which is crazy to me. Because they've rebranded and renamed, but they're still using the same CFO who missed millions of dollars.
Same lawyers, same everybody minus the Murdaugh name. Yeah.
But I guess she confronted Alex on the day of the murders about money that was missing. So the same day that the murders happened, she goes and confronts him and says, hey, we know that money's been missing. And
Serious money.
A lot of money.
Well, no, not a lot of money. A lot of money. But
a lot of money.
Not in the grand scheme of how much he stole.
Right.
Right? Because he stole millions and millions of dollars. But this amount was $792,000. And what was interesting to me was she didn't catch on until the way it worked was there was a co-counsel case, I guess, with Chris Wilson, who was
another lawyer
who there also was on the private plane. So I'm not sure how he fits in, but he's been,
all
I guess,
in it.
forthcoming with information. And so they had a case together. The client got their money in that case. And this $792,000 was just PMPED's attorney fee. So this was the money that they made off of that case.
It was a multi-million-dollar case.
The true money that they made off of that case. And Alec convinced Chris Wilson, that other attorney, to write the check to him directly instead of writing the check to the law firm. And that's when the law firm picked up that money was missing. It wasn't, we know from Gloria Satterfield and all that stuff was before this.
Pickney, right, yeah.
Way before June 2021. That's when they realized, when it sort of hit their bottom line, that they were missing $792,000, that they realized that it was being stolen.
I'd be so angry.
Which is insane.
And we always laugh because, you guys listen to us. We always talk about how Justin runs our trust account. He is a psycho about it.
Yeah.
And you have to be, as an attorney, you have to be a psycho about it. We always say that Justin Lovely would have a heart attack. He would never do that.
I would be fired.
So I told him, I said, just her and I were telling him at lunch, we were like, you need to get in on this because you understand trust accounting probably better than any of us. You've taken trust accounting school with the bar. Like, he takes it so seriously.
Well, and that's what's so bizarre about this whole thing is the bar's not coming in on all those lawyers. It makes absolutely no sense because that's what we're all taught is if you're off by a penny, one penny, you can lose your bar license. So that's why I'm so crazy about it. So, I'm looking at it. I'm triple checking what my attorneys do, everything coming in, coming out. My bank's looking over it. I have 2 virtual CPAs look at it, and then it's triple checked by my local Myrtle Beach CPA.
Wow.
So we miss nothing. And and then if you do miss anything or anything gets weird, you have to self-report that shit.
Yeah.
So this makes absolutely no sense.
You have to call the bar and say,
That's
I'm missing something, and this is what happened, and I'm giving, and
all the
reconcile
documentation
it. And it can't affect, if it affects your clients, you're done.
Yeah.
If they're easier on you when you mess up with your own money. But when you mess with the client's money, you're done.
And not reporting is a violation in and of itself. So you can't hide it. You have to reconcile everything. You have to keep track of all your settlement disbursements. You have to keep all your deposit slips. You have to keep all the copies of every check. You have to keep it all. Going in and going out. You have to reconcile every month.
I think the average person doesn't really, and it's a third-party reconciliation. So what we mean by that is so like this
Three-way.
Three-way. The best example of that is so let's say a settlement, and we're just going to use it for round numbers, is $100,000, right? We put $100,000 in under client X, or let's say under Sarah's name, she's the client. Under client Sarah, we got a $100,000 settlement. And of that $100,000 that went in, $100,000 exactly has to come out, right? So the attorney fees is taken out, and there's a check written to the lovely law firm for attorney's fees. Any costs that we have put forward, there's a lovely law firm check that is just for cost. If you have any outstanding medical bills or liens or health insurance liens, that money comes out, right? It's all accounted for. And then anything left over, down to the penny, would go to the client. And we have a disbursement sheet that they have to sign. We have to sign. Everybody gets a copy of it. And then our virtual CPAs look at it, double check our work to make sure we're good before we send any money out. And then our Myrtle Beach CPA looks at it. And then the attorney working on it as well looks at all those things on top of Justin. So there's a lot of hands in this pot that are double checking every penny is accounted for.
And then our clients are getting Justin's little spreadsheet also with a disbursement sheet that shows
accounts for
$100,000 in, $100,000 out, nothing left in trust for you. So it's very clear where all the money's going. And the fact that they didn't understand what was going on until 2021, when all they were missing was their attorney fee.
It's not true.
It's just
no way that's true. 100%.
It's just insane.
Yeah.
And the fact that they still, as far as I know, they've not had to reconcile that with the bar, or have they done any of those things? Because it seems to me like they've kicked Alex Murdugh out. They've rebranded their law firm, but they've got the same. I don't think she's a lawyer.
It's the same building, the same CFO.
The CFO is not a lawyer, from what I read.
But it is Russell Laffitte's sister-in-law.
Yes.
Yes.
They're all related. She's a non-lawyer, and she missed all of this stuff happening before, but she's still running their financial department now, which is just crazy to me. Because I would be so super fired, way before any of this ever happened.
That's crazy.
It makes no sense.
And are all the other attorneys still there? Or are they?
They're all the same.
All there. It's the same exact operation minus Alec, with no changes from what we can tell.
Well, we know because she testified at Russell Laffitte's trial that she found this money that was missing, and it was just she never seemed to find when the client's money was missing and stolen, but she happens to notice when her money was.
Yeah, Gloria Satterfield's kids never got their settlement.
Not one penny.
No red flags. That was what, 2015? Or a little bit after when they settled it?
The picnic kid died in a horrible wreck. His money, gone. Nobody picked up on that, but they picked up when their $792,000 went missing. And that is just unforgivable.
That just tells you
they're
not reconciling their trust accounts.
Right. They're not doing what they're supposed to do under the law and the rules.
Because there should be all those spreadsheets like we have that our clients get a copy of.
And we know
you can match up all the numbers.
And this fuels what we all know and what we've all learned about these lawyers and this law firm is that they are very powerful. They're so powerful that let me tell you something. If there's $25 missing from our trust account and somebody finds out and it's not, the bar will be in and there will be an audit of our account. We will have to answer for anything and everything, and we know that. But for the sheer fact that we're not seeing that in this law firm, that just goes to tell us really how powerful they are. And what everyone all up here are willing to do to protect them.
Yeah.
We also heard from the CFO of the law firm, the firm as they call it. And then we heard from the head of Palmetto State Bank. And
who's Russell Laffitte's cousin?
Who's Russell Laffitte's cousin.
So they're all related.
Yeah.
So weird.
And then we've also heard from I think it's Ronnie Crosby, who was a partner at PMPD, the firm. And, you know, it's really crazy because during his testimony today, he's trying to distance himself from Alex, right? He's trying to say, well, you know, we weren't really good friends. Like, we weren't real friends. And I didn't really like him. And, you know, and he's trying to blame that the bank should have known. Like, how are we supposed to know? The bank should have known that they were, like, stealing money, which is crazy because he still banks with Palmetto State Bank and their firm still banks with them. He admitted to that on the stand. So he's trying to, like, you know, push it over there, blaming somebody else, distance himself from it, but then he's right smack down in the middle of the shit show. And he hasn't anything to change it or to make it better, to ensure that this is not going to happen again. And if you knew that a bank, and we know that Russell Laffitte has already said the whole board, we've got these recordings, and the whole board was in on it. I mean, he said it in an interview this weekend. Why are you still banking with these people?
Why would you trust them with your client's money?
Yeah, your money or your client's money.
Yeah.
It's just more than I can handle.
I don't know why that hasn't. I have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
But what I did pick up on, which in like the murder side of it with Alec, was when the CFO testified that she had that conversation with him about the missing attorney's fees
on the same day.
And then that conversation was cut short because he got a call that his dad was in hospice. And then Maggie and Paul are murdered. And then there was a pending, I guess he had that hearing scheduled for his financials to be audited in the boat wreck case on June 10th.
To have to produce it, right?
3 days after. And so the stress that he had been under, I know you are very strongly, you know, you always say you don't think he killed his kids because he just couldn't. But I try to, a person in that frame of mind under that kind of stress.
Can I confess something? I want to confess something.
Here we go.
I don't know if I feel like that anymore.
I just think, you know, I think that goes to show that he's not in the state of mind where Amy's saying a father could never do that to his wife and to his son. I don't know that Alec was a normal father in that state of mind with all the stuff that was going on, because he had been stealing all this money and they were going to find out on June 10th. And his law firm just found out. And then his dad, who is all powerful, is about to die.
The one person who could protect him.
The one person who could fix it all is about to die. And so I just think motive for me and him makes it's all sort of coming together.
But what would the motive be? Like, what would the reason for killing them
we
be?
also know that it's been reported that Maggie had went to a divorce attorney, right?
So she was auditing him too.
Yeah. The jig was up. And even if he didn't kill him, he knows who killed him. And I really, truly believe that he was there when they were killed.
Yeah, because the timeline
2 guns, right?
Yeah.
2 guns, but then moving into the murder thing.
Let's get going. Let's do this. Yes.
So, last time, I think we talked about the motions that were filed, and one of the motions was that the prosecutor said they filed a notice of alibi motion, basically, which, so Rule 5 of the Rules of Criminal Procedure say the prosecutors ask you to provide your alibi defense. If you're going to use one, you have to respond within 10 days with your exact location and the name and address of the witnesses that you're going to use to prove you were there. And so an alibi, right, is the location you were at when the crimes were committed. So I wasn't there. I was at McDonald's. You have to say, I'm going to call the McDonald's drive-through employee and I have my receipt and this is how I'm going to show it. And in return, the prosecutors have to respond with how they're going to prove that you were at the crime scene. And so the prosecutors filed this motion that said, hey, Alec, if you're going to use an alibi, give us your alibi defense. Well, the defense responded with a motion that said, we can't give you an alibi for a certain time frame because you've never told us what time you think these crimes were committed. And I don't...
Which is very smart.
Which is smart because we've all been wondering, when were they committed? So they responded, finally. I guess, I don't know what happened exactly at the hearing, but I'm assuming the judge said you have to tell them what time you're talking about because on November 3rd, because it'll be 10 days on the 13th. On November 3rd, they filed the motion again, and they said that the murders happened between 8:30 and 10:06 p.m. And 10:06 is when he calls the police. And we know that there was some kind of videos at 8:44 of all of them at the dog pens together. And so that's when they think it happened. And so now Alec is going to have to respond if he's going to use an alibi defense. If not, then he doesn't have to respond at all. But he's going to have to respond with where he was.
But if he doesn't
time.
respond, he waives any kind of alibi defense.
He can't
raise
an alibi defense later.
But then if he does, he's got to have to be very careful with what he says with that.
And it's kind of already blown, in my opinion, because I guess I also read that they've got cell data. Obviously, we haven't seen any of this, where he starts up his car. He leaves at around 9 o'clock. He leaves Moselle. So at 8:44, he's at the dog pens. At 9 o'clock, he leaves. At 10 o'clock, he calls the police. So
I will say this.
What happened?
So I had my physical yesterday with my doctor. Let me just add this in. And while I was there, she said, Amy, have you watched the new HBO documentary about the Murdaughs?
I did.
And I said, no, I have not, because I've been out of town. And she said, oh my God, it's amazing. She starts telling me all this, and she's like, and you know, I'm really into this now. And I was like, okay, yeah, me too. I do this whole thing. You should watch it. Give it my YouTube channel. And she said, one of his lawyers gives a timeline and it doesn't make any sense on the thing. And I went, what? And then I said, Sarah, watch that shit. I gotta know. I don't have time. I got little kids. I gotta go make sure everybody's got clean underwear for tomorrow. So tell us about the timeline. It doesn't make any sense.
It makes no sense. I don't even know if he actually gave a specific time, but he said that he had dinner with Maggie and then he went to go see his dad.
He fell asleep.
Hospice.
Did he say he fell asleep? Took a nap?
I don't. There was a nap involved in there somewhere, but the gist of it was he had dinner with them, and then he left to go see his dad, who died,
who is now dead. Who
3
died
days later. I think it was very soon after his dad died, and he saw his mom, who has dementia, right? So that's not an alibi if the person's not going to remember that you saw them. And then he came home and he found them passed away in the stables. So I don't know how now you get an alibi when your attorney's on TV. Saying that's where you were,
and
you're present. You're present during that time frame
while an investigation was going
on. And that
on.
alibi doesn't include anything about them being at the dog pens together, which apparently there's a video of them all there together at 8:44.
So weird.
And then something pings at 9.
He leaves at 9.
How do you know he leaves at 9?
That's what I guess there's cell data that he or video.
No, there's a text message that says, "Hey, I'm going to." It's just a text to Paul and Maggie,
no, I
right?
read that Sled or somebody from the private investigation has videos of him starting his car up and leaving.
Okay, maybe.
At 9. We won't know till the murder comes out.
Yeah.
Right? But I've read all this stuff, and I'm just like, this.
So either they were already killed before
sense.
that. They were either already killed before that. He's bouncing and then comes back at 10.
Yeah, I'm assuming that's what happens is something happened between 8:44 and when he leaves. That's when they died.
15-minute.
Then he leaves and he comes back later, because you have to think, if you were at the dog pens with them and then you came home. His lawyer also said on the HBO documentary that he came home and he didn't see anybody was there, so he went to the dog pens. Like, why would you think they were there together, of all places? It makes no sense. And I don't think his attorney...
And the dog pens were far away from the home.
Right. So I'd be like, oh, let me just go see if they're hanging out with the dogs.
Let me go just, stroll this half a mile walk down here in the
it's
dark.
Yeah.
in the dark, and then finds them dead. So I don't know when they filmed that HBO documentary, but I don't know that his attorney helped him at all by sharing any information on that documentary. Because for me, the timeline's
that
so important.
Jim Griffith made a big mistake in that.
Yeah.
Or maybe he's doing something bigger at play, and
We're gonna
the
find
magic
out.
will be seen. I don't know. We're about
I
to
just
find
didn't
out.
even think that that was, I mean, I don't know the legal rules, but I didn't even think that that was legal to put that information out there when they've been so tight-lipped about this whole, like, closed investigation.
It all depends on,
If your client gives you permission.
well, and also when they gave the interview, right? So if he gave that interview very early on and there was no, like, quasi gag order, because that's what we've got going on. The gag order is not really about speaking to the media and stuff. It's more about, like, not showing evidence, right?
Gotcha.
Like hard evidence and stuff like that.
Right.
So when did he give that interview? I don't know.
But I think now we're getting now we have the timeline. We know like when they think that they were murdered.
Joe McCullough, we know, self-reported last week to the ethics, because Joe McCullough is an attorney in Columbia, good lawyer. He is representing one of the victims of the boat crash, and he inadvertently gave some surveillance video, right?
Right.
I
thought it was some hospital video.
Hospital video, that's what it was. Surveillance video of the hospital, at the aftermath of the boat wreck, of everybody involved. And I guess he wasn't supposed to under some kind of order and didn't realize it. And he told the bar, I accidentally gave this to them and I didn't realize it until later on. And I've asked them to.
What happens at that point if you...
I mean, I think we all make mistakes, right? We can all understand we make mistakes.
Yeah.
And he tried to fix it.
He tried to
got
fix
So
it
he
back.
doesn't get taken off the case or something? for doing that?
No.
And he did the right thing by telling, right? It's not really the mistake that ever gets you, and sometimes not necessarily even the crime, depending on what it is. It's the cover up and the lies that you do after. So if you're open and honest about it and say, look, I'm human, I messed up, I've inadvertently sent something, I've done everything I can to try to like fix it and rectify it, but you guys need to know, because that's part of my duty as a lawyer into the bar. Now, if we could just get PMPD to get on board with the rules of self-reporting, we'd be all in. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
So
So that's interesting. So we're learning more about the timeline. So I'm ready for.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see if Alec is going to respond, because they also filed that they want to know if he's going to use insanity, or mental illness, or duress, or entrapment, or any of those kind of things. And so we'll get to find out a little bit more about what Alec's defense is going to be, whether he does or does not file those motions coming up.
Now, with these trials, do they have, like, end dates? Do they have to be done within a certain amount of time, or they
as long
can
as
go
it
on?
takes. I mean, we've had a murder trial going for 2 weeks. We've had several trials going for 4 weeks. I mean, it just, as long as it takes to,
Put up the
tell the whole
evidence and
story,
put up
put up
the
the
defense.
evidence. Yeah.
Wow. And the was it a
Sarah,
movie or a show?
really, we really feel like we could solve this crime if they would just give us a discovery.
They would just give you the evidence. You guys would take
I
it.
could figure it out.
We could figure it out. We're
I
very
believe it.
smart.
But all the stuff that's coming out in Russell Laffitte's trial, just about Alec's state of mind, is really,
It's really insightful.
when you put it all together, sort of the timeline of what he was going through, and then when we start getting the timeline in the criminal trial, if they've got videos and cell data and all that stuff to put it together, I think we're finally going to get
Yeah.
some kind of answer.
And I am coming out totally open and honest that I'm not.
You may have been wrong.
I may have been wrong, and I admit that. And we'll see. But I'm not on one side of the fence or the other. I'm open to him doing this at this point in the game, from what we've learned.
Yeah.
And it's always, I don't know, maybe it's just my personality, but I always try to see the good in everybody. And the reason why people do what they do. I think it gives us a better understanding of why people commit crimes and whatever. Like, is it scarcity? Is it the cover up, the lies, whatever? And so I always try to see the best in people, even when they're not great. But I'm thinking maybe he's just a sociopath.
Yeah.
That's definitely a real possibility.
I don't know.
Maybe.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm
Are
still
you
not
fucking
sold.
kidding
Screw
me?
it.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I'm still not sold that he did it either. I still want to see it all.
I'm not sold that he did it either, but I am open.
Because I don't want him to go
that-
down for it if somebody else did it, to like send a message to him or something.
Yeah, like I'm
that.
going to take out your whole family.
I want to find out the real
Your
truth, not just
other
like
kids are next, whatever.
wrap it up. But I think we'll get to see.
We're a
all
step
the evidence,
closer.
and
Yeah.
Yeah.
we can solve it along with everyone else on the internet.
Well, it's exciting, though, that some of
Because
these
we're going to be
details are
hanging out
coming
wherever that trial is.
Well, was it a show or a movie that's on You said it was HBO?
It's like
It's
a
a documentary
series.
series, a docu-series.
Because what did you think outside of that kind of misinformation? Did you feel like it was good otherwise?
I thought it was super interesting, even though it's stuff that we've all heard before. So,
I've only saw one episode.
Yeah, the victims of the boat crash finally like give interviews, not Mallory Beach's family, but it was good to hear from them. I think I'm even more confused at why Parker's is putting up such a fight after watching that documentary. I mean, they're just like dead in the water.
Oh, something about Parker's came out recently in the news. It had been alleged that they had given, someone from their camp had given pictures of Mallory Beach's dead body, right, in the water and all that stuff.
We talked about that
in the aftermath of the boat wreck to this documentary lady, reporter, and she admitted in an affidavit that it was Parker's people that gave it to her.
And Mallory Beach's family has never given an interview or shared those photos. So I liked to hear from those victims, and I think they're just a strong bunch of people. And you really got to see in that documentary how powerful everybody else thought the Murdaughs were in that town. Like, you really got to hear it from the people involved. And Stephen Smith's family learned a bunch of stuff about that case that I didn't know.
And remind me who Stephen Smith is.
He's the young man who...
I forget how old he was. He 18? He was killed in the roadway.
1920,
and
I
they
think.
reopened his investigation after all of this.
He was found dead, and they kept saying that he was hit by a car. None of the evidence... made
those
any
state
sense.
troopers were awesome.
They're like, when people, the troopers, they give interviews, the ones that were, because the highway patrol was brought in because they thought it was a hit and run of a car, and like none of the evidence showed he had a cell phone on him. Like, cell phones don't make it through these. I mean, like, he had massive trauma to his head. He was still in his shoes, and usually when they were loosely tied, it wasn't like they were like running shoes, but even then, usually you don't see people with their shoes still intact when they've been hit so hard. You know what I mean? None of the evidence showed that, and they really told their story about how they were shut down, that the Murdaugh's name kept coming up, that
I learned so much about them, and just
Randy Murdaugh kept
inserting himself in everything.
Which is,
it was just really honest people. I don't think you really get to hear a lot of like media, which you never know, like what coming out of Fitz News and all those places is true or not true, and it's all very like one-sided against Alec. But you got to hear, I got to learn about Paul, like from all of his friends and stuff. It was good. I would watch it.
Last night when I was falling asleep, when is it Connor Cook? Which was the little guy who had the broken jaw was Mallory's boyfriend?
Anthony Cook.
But he said that before Paul had died, he saw him like at one of the bridges, and
he said sorry.
He said he was really sorry.
Paul said he was sorry?
Yeah.
Oh.
You just always want to see, you always want to hope that there's something in there worth saving in life. You know what I mean? And goodness, and even if it's just that small thing, it still feels like there was some kind of redeeming value.
Yeah, the whole
Paul.
spectrum of like their friends versus people who really feared them, and you got to really see sort of how they were working in the county, which I don't think I really understood before. Just
and
it's different when you hear it from the people who were living with them.
And you could see how torn that kid was. That this had been his friend since he was a little boy, and even though he was like a shithead, right? Because, I mean, I don't think anybody argues that Paul was this wonderful human being. And he was like a little spoiled brat. But he had redeeming qualities, and that even though he was like that he loved, it was his friend and he loved him, and he did this bad thing and it hurt really bad. And this pull that, like, he's still, I'm so mad at him, and he did this horrible thing, but he's a kid.
And it was an accident.
And he loved him. And it was an accident. And it was like just all of it. It's really powerful.
Yeah. Raw emotions.
Mm-hmm. HBO did a good job.
Yeah. Well, are there any other updates right now going on?
No. And we wait.
Now we wait.
While we wait.
Wait for this trial and see if the January trials go, right?
Yeah.
If they don't get continued.
I can't wait.
And wait to hear the alibi, if there's one.
Well, and Alex,
we will do a breaking news. Like, literally, we're going to go live if we hear an alibi and what they're saying, because
they cannot call his mom.
They can't call his mom. They can't call his dad.
There's no alibi.
There's no alibi.
Yeah, that'll be interesting for sure.
Dun, dun.
That'll be interesting for sure. All right. Is that it?
That's it.
For today. It's a lot. It's a lot, especially so close to our last one. So things are starting to move again, which is nice. We had a little bit of time there where there wasn't a whole lot going on. We were just kind of in a waiting game. So it's kind of exciting that things are coming out now.
Well, of course, you guys, we will keep you updated on this as more updates come out. You guys have been doing a great job at leaving us comments and your own theories and questions about what's going on, so we love those. Keep those up. Of course, you can visit us on all of our other social media outlets as well. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, we're everywhere that you consume your media. And of course, you can visit us online at justiceislovely.com. Carolina Justice Reports drop every Tuesday at 2 p.m., so we'll see you on the next one.
When life gets ugly, justice is lovely.